There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's Wednesday. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Tonight, we've got an interesting show lined up for you. And the reason I wanted to tackle this topic is the movie It is coming out this Friday. And I just had a chance to see this movie. Very creepy, but I thought this would be a great time to talk about spiritual warfare and protection as we talk about the survival guide to the paranormal. Michael McDonald, my guest this evening on the show. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's I'll tell you what, I just got back from the screening last night of the movie It, the brand new re-release of the Stephen King movie. I shouldn't say re-release, but it's a new version of the story, and they did a remarkable job. This has just about everything, Michael, you could ask for. It's got scares, it's got a lot of humor, it's intelligent, well written, well acted, and beautifully directed. This is, I think, going to really freak people out. I know we've had a lame summer blockbuster film world going on, but I think this might start to right the ship. I think people are going to absolutely love this. Did you see the original when it came out?
Oh, yeah, I love the original. It's been something that, everybody talks about, what's your favorite scary movie? And everybody says It. There's like a sense of clown scare a lot of people, so
right.
I hear about that all the time.
And with that movie, I loved the original. I thought it was fun and entertaining, and Tim Curry as Pennywise was amazing. What I was always disappointed in was the very ending of it. I always thought that they just let it slip away. They made a very lackluster ending. This movie's being broken up over, I think, two parts. We just saw the first part where the Losers Club, the young kids, are involved in this. The next movie, which will be It Chapter 2, will be about the adults 27 years later. And they did a remarkable job in this movie. Out of 5 stars, I'm going to give this movie a solid 4 to 4.5 stars for entertainment, scares. I had people jumping and screaming around me. Pennywise is really creepy, and they've done just phenomenal work with the special effects. So this is going to be a good one. But I think people are going to start calling on teams like yours again, Kindred Moon Paranormal team, because it always seems when these scary movies come out, especially movies like The Conjuring or the Amityville Horror, I start getting more calls myself about paranormal issues, and people's fears are kind of on high. Do you find that as well with your paranormal group?
Oh, yeah, always. If something comes up that has anything to do with scares or paranormal stuff, people will get oversensitive sometimes or be aware, because their senses are high, and they'll be aware of stuff that happens that they normally don't pay attention to. So, it seems like a lot of stuff happening.
Let's talk about you a little bit. We'll get into the book. It's Kindred Moon Paranormal Survival Guide to the Paranormal. It's spiritual warfare and protection. Talk to me a little bit about your experience, Michael. Is this something that you've been fascinated with for life, or is this, something more in the last 10 years with the paranormal popularity all over?
I've been investigating the paranormal for about 30 years. I got into it not by choice, believe it or not. My family were migrational farmers, so they would kind of travel wherever the work was, and sometimes that work was down south in Mississippi, and we used to stay in old plantation houses and stuff. And during some of these plantation houses, there'd be times that I'd be laying in bed and the sheets would be jerked off of me, or closet doors would open and shut, or be playing with some toys in one room and go get a drink of water and come back, and they're not in the room where they were. They're in separate rooms and different positions, and so it was just quite terrifying for me, of course. But I wanted to, at that moment, I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to gain knowledge to overcome, what was happening, because I didn't want to be scared, So that's when I started kind of like researching.
Was your family supportive at that time, or were you keeping it secret, almost embarrassed by the fact that you were having these weird encounters?
I had to keep it secret. My family were really, really religious, and anything that was not of God, was the devil, and I was terrified by that. So I was scared to bring it up, because I was afraid that they'd be like, well, there's something wrong with you, So it was quite, scary. I wanted to tell somebody, I really did, because, in situations like that, you're supposed to be able to turn to your family. But back then, when paranormal was not cool or not in, or they didn't have TV shows about it, it was a completely different story.
What is one of the weirder experiences from your youth that really stuck out to you as maybe a very terrifying moment?
There was a time believe it or not, we just moved to a new place because my family got some work, and I had to start this new school. And it was the day one, and I don't, you hear about this, like movies and stuff, but this actually happened. Bully at the school saw me, taking me out of everybody there, and I was the new kid. He comes up and punches me and starts to fight and stuff, and of course the teachers break it up, and they're like, well, you guys can get detention, blah, 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 and all this. He's like, you guys can meet me after school. We're going to finish this. Of course I had no intention on meeting him after school, but the whole school carried me pretty much to where the fighting was, which is a lumber site. And I went there, and I didn't have to fight him. I had to fight him and all his friends, and pretty much got, beat down at that time. So, hurt and limping and bloody, I crawled back home. My family was gone. They were working. I tried to, take a bath to get all the blood off me and stuff, and I went crying and laid down on my bed, and it felt like something sat down on the edge of the bed. I thought it was my mom, that might have came home at that time for something, a break or whatever. And I didn't pay no attention. I didn't work because I was hurt so bad. I heard something whisper in my ear, it's like, Michael. I was like, what? And I jerked really quick and looked over there, and nothing was there. And that pretty much set it in gold right there for me. That was the most, other than having the sheets and stuff like that pulled off and toys, that was the most paranormal that I saw at that moment. That was, more directed at me personally, when they said my name.
Have you ever opened up to your family about that? I know that you said they had a very strong religious base, but did you ever come forward and seek their answers or help?
I told my cousin about it, and when we were 16, she was like 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that, and I believe it or not, she used to go and ghost hunting with me at that time. But other than that, no, I didn't really. Well, I kind of hinted around, but then they kept, give me that raised eyebrow, and like that wasn't, needed to be talked about. So I just kind of kept a secret after years, and once paranormal was okay and the shows came out, stuff like that. My family was more open to hearing what I had to say, and I remember them saying, "Oh, you just mentioned something like that, that was going on with you when you were younger." I was like, "Yep," and y'all didn't believe me, So I kind of felt bad at that moment, but yeah, I had to live with that and fear of people, treating me different or I was afraid that, and again, too, I was afraid if I told somebody that the spirit or whatever would get mad at me, too, and take it out on me. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go through your head when you're being, haunted.
Why do you think you were being haunted, Michael? What about you drew the spirits to you?
I don't know. I ask myself that question. I've always kind of been hypersensitive on certain things, and I've always seemed to notice things that others don't seem to notice and stuff like that. I know when I got older, I could answer the question more because, when I was 24, I ended up finding out I had cancer. And I had to go through like an 18-hour surgery awake as they cut this cancer out of my forehead. And I was on the table and stuff like that. I was sitting there, a great time of dealing with that because, it just didn't go right. It was going to kill me. And so it was very serious. And I remember crying and praying that, I was going to make it through it. And I was scared that I was going to die and stuff like that. And I was scared that, what if something paranormal happens while this is happening and it ends up killing me and stuff like that. So I don't know. I would say that I'm insensitive to it. I'm not a psychic by any means. I don't, that's not my area. I'm more scientific on everything, and I try to debunk stuff. But I would definitely say, for some reason, I have a knack to these things. They seem to be drawn to me. I really, honestly, to this day, I'm not quite sure why, unless they notice that I notice them, and that's the only thing that I can think of.
There are a lot of people involved in the paranormal, a lot of people that are interested in researching it, and a lot of people that are coming out talking about the experiences they've had throughout their life. Are you finding, as a researcher, any commonalities that seem really bizarre, but you're noticing more and more, like new trends in this paranormal field?
By trends, what exactly are you kind of referring to? Can you give me an example of the trend?
Well, it just seems that there's different. For a long time, people were seeing these little kind of hooded, cloaked figures, that were maybe 3 to 4 feet tall. The anomalous lights, those were being seen for quite a while. There just seems to be the cyclical trend to the paranormal field, and I'm wondering if you and your team are coming across any kind of investigations and evidence that seems to be different than what you've come across before, but seems to be happening a lot.
The paranormal field has always constantly, for 30 years that I've been doing it, it has always constantly changed. It seems like sometimes when you know the rules seem to change, and that's what happens when you deal with the unknown. We're all just learning this stuff, and trying to find answers to what's going on. And I've seen stuff that just is wild, that would blow your mind over the time period that I've seen stuff, and I would say there's different times that seem like there's more activity, that could be due to, the thunderstorms or the weather and the ions being charged, by lightning and stuff like that. Or it could be certain areas are on like ley lines, and that seems to have more activity in those type of places. Or it could be the people too, how much they're feeding this entity or whatever by fearing it, So there's different situations that and elements that can occur that can create certain circumstances that can increase the activity or not. I'd say that people are more aware of it now and more open with it now due to the popularity of it. I think that things seem to be progressing or more, what would you say, more heavier, intensified as an activity than not so held back and barely, moving something or whispering your voice. Stuff seems over the time has seemed to be greater forces, and greater activity being picked up and found. Because these things are like showing themselves, apparitions. Back in my day, you were lucky to see one apparition. And then, all of a sudden, everybody's seeing apparitions and stuff like that.
Do you think that's because we're becoming more educated and learning how to watch for these things? Or do you think there is a true thinning of the veil and that maybe the death realm and life realm are coming closer than they've ever been before?
Well, I'm hoping it's the first option. And I hope that us being aware and teaching people and learning things from this, gives us power, which it does. It gives us power to defend and be aware of these things. And I'm hoping that, everybody is aware of that now and gains knowledge from that now. But I also believe that the veil could be thinning due to the activity and all the attention that it's getting It's like a double-edged sword. You know, we educate so many people about this stuff and find out so much. Our curiosity begs for more, and the more that we, you know, evolve ourselves into it, the more it kind of powers it as well. You know, so it could be both, in all honesty, in my opinion.
Do you believe, and I know you've got the new book out about protection, do you believe people are being more reckless investigating the paranormal at this point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that people want to believe that there's life after death. I think that it's a fascinating thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think that curiosity, you know, is in every human being. But, you know, I've also seen and been on a lot of cases cleaning up after people that has seen a couple shows of Ghost Hunters or Paranormal State and went to Walmart, bought a flashlight and a video camera and called themselves a ghost hunter and was taking, you know, cases from people that really need help, and these guys did not know how to deal with that situation, and instead they made it worse. You know, so I said, well, absolutely, you know, it's these ghost hunting is a wonderful thing. It really is. But what people don't tell you, what the shows don't tell you, there is dangers behind this. And, you know, you got to be prepared for something like that because you can't just go into it blindfolded, or otherwise you're going to get sideswiped.
I agree with you, and we'll cover more of that right after this.
Let me ask you a question. How often do you think about your socks? If you're like I used to be, not much. But I recently discovered socks that changed the way I'll think about socks forever. You ready for this? They're called bomb ass. You got me right. They're called bomb ass. Bomb ass are the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. I kid you not. They're made from premium cotton, and they're so soft on your feet. They're wonderful. Bomb ass stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer. They're the perfect sock. Every pair come with a built-in blister tab, innovative arch support, stay-up technology, and a seamless toe. They're perfect for diabetics like me. I'm telling you. They're bomb ass. They're not spelled like that. They're spelled B-O-M-B-A-S, but I think they're the bomb ass sock, if you know what I mean. With many colors, patterns, lengths, and styles, bomb ass look great in the gym, at the office, and out on the town. And why shouldn't they? They're bomb ass socks, right? Bomb ass are what feet daydream about. And for every bomb ass purchase you make, bomb ass donates a pair to someone in need. You gotta love that. Keep cool, keep comfortable, and keep contributing with the best socks in the history of feet, bomb ass. Buy one pair or four at bombass.com/darkness today and get 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/darkness for 20% off. Bombass.com/darkness. Fantasy football fans, it's over. It's finally over. That long wait is finally over. Football is back. Can you feel it? That means FanDuel is back as well. Fantasy football for everyday fans. That is FanDuel. Brand new contests starting every week. You know what that means. No more busted seasons. And there's something for everyone. Lots of contests to choose from. And guess what? I've got good news for you guys. They start at just $1. You heard me right. They start at just $1. Just pick a contest, choose your teams, and watch your score in real time. Now, here's the deal. I've told you this once. I'll tell you 1,000 times. Dave and I aren't great fantasy football players. This is why. I got a little secret for you. I'm a great gambler. I'm not a great fantasy football picker. I'm just not. What I do is I get my players, and I pick pretty good players, but I'm a jinx. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I'm kind of like the cover of the Madden video game. If I pick that player, they are bound and destined to get injured that season. So don't ask me who I'm picking this year, because that's probably the person who's going down with a catastrophic injury for the year. But I've got my team already picked out, and I'm ready to go for the season, and I'm playing on FanDuel this year. So Dave and I have got a little team together. We've got a friend of ours here in the Twin Cities who is huge in fantasy football leagues, who's going to help us out a little bit this year. We're going to win some money with FanDuel. So we've got it all planned out. Over 2.5 million players have won a cash prize playing fantasy sports on FanDuel. You can do it along with us. Make sure you sign up today. Go to FanDuel.com, click on the Join Now button, and use our code, It's Beyond. New users get free entry into the NFL Sunday Million with over $1 million in cash prizes when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com, sign up with your promo code, It's Beyond. Remember that. That's FanDuel.com, promo code Beyond, void where prohibited.
Now, I know a lot of the shows, Michael, they talk about the darker side of the paranormal. And let's face it, it's because it's more exciting, it's alluring, people like to be frightened. You know, if you're just going in to talk to mom and grandma ghosts, I don't know that would sustain a TV show. Do you think there is more of an aggressive nature to spirits at this point? Or, and maybe spirits is the wrong term because that would denote that they were human at one point. Do you believe there is more dark entities and energies that are attaching and connecting and frightening people? Or do you think that it's people's overactive imagination?
I think that there's always, and I cover this kind of in my book too as well, that there's always been wars against good and evil, you know, and sometimes the scales tip on the opposite sides. And I think that we're in one of those sides that is tipping for more on the evil side. I've seen a lot more, you know, back in the day, there wasn't as much as, I mean, it happened, but not as often, you know, as much evil or aggressive stuff that's going on. But it seems over the last 10 years, it seems like it's been picking up a lot. And I'm not quite sure, you know, if it's just the attention that it's getting from this or what it is. But it seems like, you know, things are kind of getting out of control. And I believe that we need to be prepared for this because anything can happen from this moment on, you know.
Why do you think that is? Why is there something negative coming? Is it because we're finally all giving much more attention to this aspect? And again, I don't even know if that's a truth. You know, it seems that the spirituality and seeking spiritual answers is a cyclical thing, that every 70, 80 years we seem to go through this new awakening and we start seeking more of a spiritual intervention. So I don't even know if right now we can say we're in some kind of new renaissance of the paranormal. Certainly there's a much bigger awareness, and because of the internet and social media and smartphones and tablets, we can communicate faster than we've ever done before in sharing these encounters. Do you think that is actually creating more negativity and breeding fear because people are able to share at the drop of a hat as opposed to before, it wasn't really dinner talk, it wasn't that kind of stuff that would freak people out, or it would freak people out and they just wouldn't talk about it freely at work or anywhere else.
Yeah, I think that communication is a huge key with this, not so much as the cause of it, but, like back in the day, we didn't have like communication like that. We didn't have really the internet to kick back and forth with other investigators and share evidence and stuff like that, or make people aware of our findings so easily. And now it's so easy, you can put it up on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and it's like instant. And you have all these people that are viewing it and sharing their stuff with you and stuff like that. So I think it's maybe, and here's the question we really got to ask ourselves: has it really increased with all this, or has it always been there and we're just more aware of it now? So we're paying more attention to it and seeing it, that it's always been there, and now we see it better. And that's kind of the point. We're trying to figure that out right now, and hopefully we can come up with the answers, because maybe we are going through like a renaissance time of it. Maybe it's just increasing because of the forces of, whatever the planets are aligned, or the dimensions, or, the veil are thinning, or whatever. Or, like I said, it could just be that we're more aware of it and people are reporting it more often.
If somebody contacts you in your paranormal group, Michael, and they think that they've got a haunting going on, do you encourage them to try to engage with the spirits, either by telling them to leave them alone or communicating to see why the spirits are there or what they need?
Not necessarily. Not normally. Normally, when people call, they're scared, they're terrified. It really took a lot from them to get to the point to call, because they're scared of being judged. They're scared of whatever's happening to come out in public. They're scared of what could happen to them, but they're thinking to hurt them. How would I say this? I don't tell them to face this thing without giving them proper knowledge on how to. So I usually evaluate the situation, see, legitimately if it could be a haunting, go in and investigate it and check it out, and give these people information on how to deal with it, they show them training, educate them, give their things, their protection, teach them things, and then at that point at the end, we will walk through the, with them and room to room and have, them show them the thing out, rather than, being unaware. They should never, ever approach something they're not aware of what it is or what it could be. That would be foolish to tell somebody to take something on. It could be a normal ghost, it could be a demon, and if you confront a demon, it's not going to usually end so well. So, no, I wouldn't suggest facing something like that without having somebody there that knows what's going on.
Obviously, you've written a book about protecting yourself when doing spiritual warfare. Have you ever had your ass kicked by the other side?
Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about that. And I know we're a little muffled. I don't know if the microphone's too close to your mouth or not, but the audio keeps kind of muffling and deepening. So if you can pull the phone away a little bit, we'll see if we can get a better audio rip from it. But tell me a little bit about some of the times you've maybe been in over your head when dealing with the paranormal.
Sometimes, working with other groups and stuff like that, they usually fill us in, on what's going on and their findings, and they ask me to come in and help them with a certain case or whatever. And we were told one time by a group that I really, trusted and, experienced, their knowledge on the stuff, trusted their knowledge on the situation. And they just told us it was a normal haunting, that we didn't really need to bring, full, battle, spirit fighting gear, protection, or anything like that, There was going to be a simple in and out case. So I believed them and trusted them. And so we really didn't take a lot, maybe a little bit of protection, but nothing to do a battle with. And we got there, and then come to find out it was actually a demon. And we were
okay. Well, tell me that. It's funny, people that have been in the field, they're just so nonchalant about comments like that. So come to find out it's a demon. What were the telltale signs to you that you were dealing with the demonic?
Well, there were a lot of signs and stuff like that led up to it. Like temperatures were getting hot instead of cold. People started getting claw marks. We were, being attacked. We brought out a few devices, and it started communicating with us, and it literally, I demanded it to tell me what it was, and it said demon. And then I demanded his name, and it told us what his name was.
Now, that kind of flies in the face of logic, right? I mean, demons do not want to be labeled as a demon, because in doing so, then you begin the spiritual warfare. And then to give its name, the only way to really rid places of demons is by knowing their name. Why do you think this demon was so cavalier in giving you that information? Do you think it just assumed you were too stupid and naive to fight it, so it had no problem sharing its information?
It was very gutsy. It didn't really willingly want to give it to me, but I demanded it in the name of Jesus Christ, and I'm very, persuasive. I don't give up too much. So, I did the things that I needed to do to get it to tell me its name, and it laughed about it. The whole time I found it amusing, and it definitely toyed with us, and it definitely played with us, and it took its toll on every single person that was there. There was 4 different teams, and it got us all. Not one of us left that place untamed. We were we were all pissed at it, I think.
When you're facing something like that, Michael, and there's multiple people involved, and these things are starting to just attack, and they're hurting and scaring and freaking out parts of your team, I mean, what is the logic at that point? I mean, how do you stop the progression of the investigation? Do you then go straight into protection and sealing? Kind of walk me through what that's like.
Absolutely. Once it gets to that point, we stop the investigation, and we go into protection mode. You know, it's my job as being an investigator to protect my team and everybody else that's there. You know, so I automatically, start saying prayers, getting protection stuff out. You know, the team's putting medals around us. We're blessing things with the holy water. We're blessing each other. Anointing things. It's a full blown defense mode from that moment on, and trying to get everybody out of there safely. And then that's what you have to do.
Now, I've heard a lot of people that have had that, and they start facing these dark entities, whether you want to call them demons, spirits, elementals, and when they begin evoking religious names and holy water, that has been known to sometimes amp the paranormal activity up. Have you physically seen that occur for yourself, where when you're trying to defend and fight it, that it starts getting more violent?
Yes, it can happen, and you got to be strong, and you got to know what you're doing to do this stuff, and that's the reason right there why I wrote this book, because if you don't know what you're doing at that time and moment, you yourself and everybody's at jeopardy, and everybody can get hurt, if not worse. And I didn't want anybody to ever deal with that kind of situation that we went through, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book, was for that situation, kind of like, hey, me and other teams and other people don't need to be in a position like this. And if we do get in a position like this, people need to be educated on what to do from this moment on in order to get out safely. So that was pretty much the basis for the whole book.
Have you ever gotten to the point during an investigation where you just have to throw in the towel and walk away from it because it's too powerful, there's too much dark energy attached to it?
I would never, ever walk away from a case that involved people. It's one thing if it's a haunted location, abandoned, and nobody lives there, nobody's affected by it except for the curiosity of just wanting to go and investigate it. I will warn others about it and stuff like that, and maybe, not go back there ever again. Mm-hmm. But if somebody was being haunted by this thing, I would never, ever leave them without options of or knowledge, to not, defend themselves and to get help, because, they call for you for help. You never abandon them, a person like that. They're looking to you to protect them and to help them. And I can never walk away from that.
But at what cost, Michael? I mean, you've had medical issues yourself through your life, which means that there's kind of a dent in that armor already. Aren't you worried that sometimes when facing this, and I know by talking to demonologists and exorcists and some people that we've talked about, that the more kind of broken you've been, the easier it is for them to beat you and manipulate you. Do you ever have a fear that facing these dark entities, even though you're doing, in your opinion, God's work to try to rid people of these attachments, do you ever fear for your own safety and health that it may take too much of a toll out on you?
Absolutely. And it has. It has. My health, I believe, not all, but I believe that some of my health issues that I go through to this very day, I believe is from battling these things. Absolutely, 100%.
So what is your advice then to people out there listening that want to get involved in paranormal investigating, and they're going to treat it like a hobby? Do you believe that it's a good idea to get in as long as you educate yourself, or do you think for your health and for your safety you should avoid doing things like this?
I think that, it's kind of like smoking and everything else. Curiosity, people are going to do it, whether you tell them not to or, or to do it. But I would suggest if you choose to do it, that you educate yourself completely and you be very, very careful and never take on anything that you don't think that you're prepared for. Because that's how you get hurt. You get in situations to where you're not prepared for this. The reason I know all this stuff and wrote all this stuff in the book and able to release it now to the world is that I learned all this from experience. It wasn't taught to me. I didn't have a book like this to read back then. But if I had my book when I was 16, I'd probably still be healthy and everything else, But I didn't have that. I had to live through those experiences and live through those battles and all that in order to gain that knowledge, to share it with everybody, So, yeah, I would say, know the cost, and everything comes with a cost. It can be very fun as long as it doesn't out of control, but you never know what you're dealing with until you investigate it. So I would say if you do decide to do it with precaution and educate yourself.
That's some great, solid advice.
Beyond the darkness.
Paranormal Survival Guide to the Paranormal Spiritual Warfare and Protection. Michael McDonald, our guest this evening, as we talk about a very important aspect to encountering the paranormal. Whether you are a casual observer or somebody that is actively pursuing this, it is a good idea to know what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, and how to go about educating yourself to protect yourself. I wrote a book a number of years ago with Patrick Burns and Marley Gibson, Michael, on teens ghost hunting. And we took a lot of flack. And I said, listen, they're watching it on TV. They're going to do this. We can tell them all we want. Don't do it. But they're going to do it anyway. We did when we were kids. What's going to stop them? I wanted to give them a good guidebook on how to investigate, why we investigate, and what goes into a real investigation. So they see it's not just flash and glamour, and you're not going to just end up on a TV show because you're investigating the paranormal. And, we had a lot of pushback from people saying that was ridiculous. Although the book was written for everyone, we wrote it as a general guide, coming at it from 3 different perspectives to really kind of, hone in and give a nice comprehensive book that was easy to read and follow. And at the last minute, the publishers said, well, with the popularity of Twilight, let's slap teen on the cover and really cash in on that market. And, I stood by that decision again, because I do think it's important that if kids and teens want to know this, they should understand why we do what we do and what the real dangers are. I've run into so many people, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, Michael, as we're talking about protection and being very cautious when it comes to exploring the paranormal. People that have children, I have children, but I try to keep my children separate from this, and I'm very cautious and very protective. I do my prayers before an investigation, during an investigation, after an investigation, and before entering my home, so I'm meticulous in making sure that there's nothing that comes home with me. But a lot of people just are very lax in that. They treat it like you're going to the park to play Frisbee. I see a lot of people, that's when they start getting the negative encounters, when they're really kind of misidentifying and misunderstanding what it is that they're up against.
Absolutely. They tend to not take it seriously, and they kind of go carefree about it. They don't realize that there is real danger, and they don't, because they never show that. On TV, they don't really show the dangers of it. They show people getting scared and them debunking stuff and, finding the answer to whatever it was, but they don't realize that the TV shows don't show the bad stuff. Sometimes they won't even take cases that are bad because they think it might be bad for, ratings.
Right.
But the reality of it, though, is, the best thing about TV shows was it let people know about the paranormal, and it became more accepted. That's the only thing about the show that was ever good. Beyond that, the negative side of that is it didn't never really show the dangers behind it and what a paranormal investigator goes through in order to find those answers for people and to help the people, So, it's like a double-edged sword, It got people's curiosity and acceptance of it, but people were not educated, and the shows do not really educate people about protection. Even on some of the shows that use protection, they never really show people how to use that protection or how to set it up or how to say which prayers for what reasons and all that. And that's why, I cover all of that in the book.
Well, unfortunately, it's because we live in a strange world, and I notice it and find it on my show. You can talk about the paranormal, but you start talking about religious, no matter what religion it is, and people get upset and bothered. So I think TV avoids it for that reason.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing about my book, too. I took that into consideration because it always has been a touchy subject. Politics and religion, the two touchiest subjects on the earth. And I made the book to where it doesn't matter, what religion you are, there's protection stuff in there to use for your religion. I covered everything from Christianity, Wiccan, you name it. It's all in there. Spirituality, if you believe in, more of a spiritual Indian belief, it's all in there. So you can, either take just that part of it, or, like me, what I have found is that if you use certain things from certain religions and together, it seems to work better than just using one, and I cover that in my book too.
The idea that, people are interested in this, they want the answers, they want to go find something, and it's exciting when you get that moment, that connection to the other side. Now, with that said, and with so many people in fear all the time of this, I mean, you do know as well, it's not always a scary thing. It doesn't mean that just because you've made connection that you're going to encounter the evil or the damned. Right. That's sometimes our overactive imagination.
Right. And that's fear. That's fear of, unknown. I mean, anybody's going to be scared of something, moving something or saying something or communicating with you that you can't see with your own eyes. That's scary. And that's why you need to be educated on what you're dealing with in order to cope and deal with that, Everybody's going to have fears. Even the greatest investigators, are scared of some things, but we got to be brave for others. You know what I'm saying? And we have to take on that role. To me, a paranormal investigator is not just a person that's going to try to find, evidence of paranormal. A paranormal investigator is a person that goes in and helps people. That calls you for help. You go in and you help those people, because sometimes it's not just about paranormal. Sometimes people are reaching out because, they're being beat by their spouse, or there's, neglect, abuse, anything that can be going on that, you can go in and help these people by getting them in touch with people and services that they need, and sometimes it can be paranormal related, a lot of times it can be, but sometimes it's not. But going in and helping people, period, is what I believe a paranormal investigator should do.
The children that call in, and that's always the tough part for me, when you get kids that are afraid and they're dealing with this. Do you deal with children differently than you do with the adults, or is it all about education?
I deal with them differently. You can't really go in and be like hardcore with children. They don't understand that. But you got to kind of go down to their level and give them, take the fear away from them, give them hope, bring a little light into that darkness of scaring them, and educate them to where they, understand, not to be afraid of it, and to tell, mommy and daddy what's going on. Don't be scared to tell them, or reach out to people for help. Because that's half of it right there. Children are scared to talk about these things that are going on and happening to them because they're afraid to be judged or to be put down or to be like, I don't believe you or whatever, the things that can happen. So you need to do it as a family, educate the family. Don't just educate them separately, but educate the family, on everything. Get them all on the same page.
That's a great point, right? Yeah, get them together on this so that they're all coming together. And if your kids are having these experiences, and maybe you're not, be careful about just dismissing it. you've really got to give them a chance
Exactly.
to be who they are, to share their stories and feel protected, not judged, not to made feel foolish or dumb for having these experiences. So that's an important aspect for it. What do you do, and how do you deal with hauntings when it turns out to be children that are involved in the in the investigation? It's children's spirits that you're coming up against.
We usually, once we realize that it's children's spirits and stuff like that, we tone the investigation down not so much just into like hardcore, like, we're going to go in here and tear this apart. We kind of tone it down and like, again, try to get down to their level and see if they'll play with us. We'll bring toys along with us, balls, certain things that they could touch and light up and stuff like that, with just get them to play with us, just because at one point they were human, and so why not treat them?
Are you sure? Are you sure about that? See, I often wonder if they're taking the guise of children in order to get our defenses down, right, so that they can get closer, attach, and maybe do even more damage.
Right, and they can. That's what I was saying. Once you realize what you're dealing with, if you're for sure it's a child one, then you can do that. But you need to know the difference, you know what I mean? Because it's going to try to, a demon, if we're talking about demons or negative, malicious spirits, they're going to try to trick you. That's what they do. That's how they break your will, they break your mind to get in. Whatever way they think that they can create in order to get you, they're going to do it. So you need to be, very careful on knowing what you're dealing with, before you let your, go down at all and try to be, fun and playful to it, And,
right.
And there's signs. There's signs that you're going to be able to notice. People are going to, instead of, like it getting cold, if things will start getting hot, people will start acting weird, things will start, people start getting scratches or getting hit or, things will start flying across the room and carved into the walls or, you can tell the difference between a ghost and a malicious thing. You just got to know the signs to look for it. You got to be educated about that.
Well, let's begin with some information on protection. What to do before, or if you feel that there's something in your home or around you that's paranormal in nature, what are some of the first tips that you'll give people to protect themselves?
Before we even touch that, you really need to talk to the clients, because I've come across clients that don't want us to expel the spirits that are there. They get along and live with these spirits, and they don't want protection from them. They just want to understand them. Now, the people like that, we just educate them in a normal way on how to deal with them. Now, the people that are scared and do not want the spirits there, and they want them, to be removed from the house or want to be educated on how to deal with it, we'll go over everything with them and tell them, how to, prayers you should use, sage in order to do cleansing, everything, we're using metals, less metals from the church and less salt. And, we'll go over every fundamental use of protection that we can possibly come up with to educate them on what to do if that's what they really want.
How often do you find that you help somebody rid their home or their life of the paranormal only to be called back later because they've reopened that door? Does that happen often to you?
It does. It does. What people don't realize is that we can go in and do an investigation and cleanse a home and, do it all properly and right and everything's fine. But it only takes one person. It can be a family of 5, it can be a family of 2, it can be a family of 10. It only takes one person for their curiosity or their need or want to let that thing come back, and it opens the door. It opens the door and they're back.
Why do you find that people want it back? I mean, you would think logic tells us, let's avoid this, but people do. They reopen these wounds and allow the evil back. What is the reasoning that you're finding when you do these investigations?
There's different solutions to that. I mean, sometimes it could be mental illness. You know, they're seeking attention. You know, and the spirit makes them feel, you know, like they're getting attention, even though it's negative attention. You know, whether it be from the spirit itself or whether it be from the people around them trying to help them. You know, there's all kinds of different solutions. Sometimes it's just mistakes. You know, people really come back thinking about it and not, you know, feeding it, you know, being still scared of it, and not meant for it to come back, but it, you know, it feeds off of that and opens up the door and it goes back. You know, but I think that, you know, people, you know, do it for their own reasons, you know, just like they do anything else, you know, whether it be attention or fear or not being properly educated or, you know, whatever the reason, you know, it creates doors for those things, and people need to know that. Because they don't, you know, it's just like when people grab Ouija boards and they, you know, oh, this is fun, you know, we're entertained by this, you know, it's moving the thing and it's talking to us and this is so neat. And then they fold it up or put it back in the box and put it in the closet, and they didn't realize, well, you just opened the door and you never shut it, you know, and usually the thing you're talking to on the other side of the Ouija board isn't, you know, a decent spirit. It's usually something else, you know. So, I mean, it's just a mistake because they're, uneducated about what they're doing. You know, they're just entertained and amused by the whole fascination of it all. You know, it's like gold. You know, it's like seeing gold shiny for the first time. You're like, oh, wow, that was great. You know, riding a roller coaster for the first time. Oh, that was great. Let's get back in line and do it again, you know. And it's just curiosity, the human nature of curiosity.
You know, folks, there is a new show out there that's starting its second season, and it is absolutely amazing, and you got to check it out. It's Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath, A&E's Emmy-nominated groundbreaking docuseries, and it's returned for season 2. There's brand new episodes on Tuesday at 9/8 Central on A&E. Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath follows Leah along with high-level former Scientology executives and church members as they delve into shocking stories of abuse, heartbreak, and harassment experienced by those who have left the church and spoken publicly about their experiences. This season, Leah continues her quest to give a voice to the victims of the Church of Scientology. The series also explores accounts of former members whose lives have been significantly impacted by the church's practices. Leah is even helping people take action, turning survivors into fighters, revealing truths, and seeking justice for these people as well. Be sure to catch up on episodes on the A&E app and AETV.com as well if you haven't caught them in their original run, Tuesdays at 9/8 Central on A&E. Once again, A&E app or AETV.com, or you can catch Leah Remini, Scientology in the Aftermath, Tuesdays at 9/8 Central on A&E.
Michael, what do you do and how do you address this with people that are facing the paranormal, maybe for the first time ever in their life, and they're seeking help because they feel overwhelmed and terrified, but they don't have a religious base? I mean, most of protection as we know it comes from some form of religion. What if it's an atheist? How do you help somebody like that?
Well, the times that I come across situations like that is that they really didn't have to believe in the items and the things that were being performed. That because others did and others do, it did it for them. You know, it's kind of like when performing exorcism. You know, there's a person possessed by a demon, and even though the demon might not want to hear it or believe in the word of Christ, you know, there's people around him that do. You know, and they're enforcing that law upon them. You know, and it's kind of like the same way in a sense, not really forcing. But, you know, it's enforcing the protection around them because of the people that do believe in that protection. So they don't really have to believe. And sometimes in a lot of times that I've come across, atheists and stuff like that, people didn't believe. They end up believing in the end. You know, they end up becoming religious because of the paranormal. So, you know, it's kind of amusing on how things turn, you know, when stuff happens.
All right. So for somebody that is right now feeling as though there is something in their home and they no longer want it there, or they don't want to encounter it, they don't want to, necessarily face it, what are good ways for them to begin to protect themselves right now?
Right now, I would contact probably a local church, whatever religion you want to contact. Catholic churches.
Right, but you've written a whole book on protection and spiritual warfare. What already in your book? I mean, what are tried and true methods that have worked for you? Is it writing down? Some people will say they write a note to the ghost or the demon, telling them they're not welcome, and they leave it there. And some believe that if you speak in your mind that these things can hear you. Some believe that by just telling them it's time to go, that'll work. Or do we automatically go to evoking religion and getting a priest or somebody involved in this to protect ourselves? Where exactly, what kind of methodology do you map out in the new book?
It really depends on how strong the people are, or how strong they really believe. If they feel like this is something that they can't handle, then I would suggest find help elsewhere. If there's something that you feel that you can take on yourself, then I would suggest the first thing to do is stop feeding it. This thing is feeding off your fear. You got to stop fearing it. Once you stop fearing it, they're trying to take the power back to you. So that would be the first step.
All right. Once you've got that under wraps, what do you what's the next step for people?
From that moment on, then you need to decide on you want it gone. If you want it gone and you don't know how to do that, I would suggest reading my book. But if you don't know how to really do that, which is something that you really need to be educated on, so that's where it gets tricky. When it comes to a point where you're forcing an entity out of your house that you don't know what it is, you're taking risks at that moment. That's when you put you and yourself and your family in jeopardy, because if it's a normal ghost, it might, you telling it, please leave my home. You're not welcome here. This is our home. You're not bound to this place. Please leave. Or leave in the name of Jesus Christ. Command you to leave. Whatever the terms that you use and to get this thing done. If it's a demon, you're picking a fight with this thing now, and things are going to get out of control. Things are going to get dangerous. People will more than likely get hurt if you don't know what you're doing. And then that's, where you need to either bring somebody in that knows what they're doing, or you need to, read my book and know what you're doing. There's just, there's times that, if you're not educated about the paranormal, you're not going to have the answers. You got to seek answers, whether it be in somewhere, whether you read about it, you talk to other people about it, your church or a paranormal investigator, or the outlets are there. But you're going to have to reach out to it, because nobody is born with the knowledge on how to take on these things. These are unknown things that we cannot see and fight without knowledge of what it is.
All right, give me some of the creepier locations you've been to. As we're wrapping up the show here, it's always nice to leave on a high with people thinking about some more of the scary and spooky aspects of your story. What are some of the most haunted and active and frightening locations you've been to?
Sally's house, Atchison, Kansas.
Okay, and what happened to you there specifically that makes you say that?
We investigated that place, I believe, a total of 5 different times. We were there, recording a show. And, from day one, you walk in there, and it just feels like pins or like sticking in you, like needles. It's constantly messing with you, your skin. And then we were there taking, shots around the house and this and that with the cameras and stuff. And one of my crew went down to the basement to get some establishing shots down there. And video recording was going on, and you could literally hear something come down, running down the stairs at her. And that terrified her. She came running up, stairs and told us about it and stuff like that. And then let's see here, vehicles wouldn't start. They were clawing at the walls. One person about slightly mildly possessed. There were people who got claw marks. People that were.
Wait, how do you get slightly possessed? Isn't possession full or not at all?
No, there's different stages of possession. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people that are walking around today on the streets that are partially possessed and they don't even know it. But full-on possession, is something that a lot of people that would think, of the exorcist or something like that. It's not just like that. There's partial possession. A demon's job is to try to get all of you, and it can only slowly chip away at you piece by piece if you're strong-willed. So it has to have patience and chip away slowly at you, and it will possess whatever parts of you that it can, and then over time, it will fully get you. But it's only partial in the beginning. So it's not like just somebody, like the Evil Dead. When you watch that movie and there's something trailing in the woods, and all of a sudden it just hits you, and you're possessed all the way and putting blood over everything. That's not how it really happens. Demons will break your will down. They have to make you weak in order to take you over. So, and the strongest people are the hardest for them to get to. The softer people is the easiest prey. So, she was very open to stuff, and she tried to shut off her gifts, and stuff like that. But the thing, slowly kind of beat her down, wore her out, and she went to the bathroom, and we heard screaming coming out of the bathroom. So we rushed, of course, to the bathroom and stuff like that. She was staring in the mirror, and when we, opened the door and saw her staring in the mirror, as she was looking in the mirror, her eyes were black, and she, screamed and turned her head and looked at us, and her eyes went back to normal. So, we dealt with the situation. But at that moment, it was scary. It was very scary. And luckily, it didn't set in. Luckily, we dealt with it quick enough and handled the situation.
And that all took place at the Sally house?
At the Sally's house. Sure did. Yep.
All right. What was another one of your favorite locations that was just filled with weird paranormal activity?
Oh, God. There's so many. I mean, I've done Rolling Hills. I've done...
Well, what stands out for you about Rolling Hills? I've been there personally, and I've seen a lot and experienced a lot there. But what was your findings?
We were there with Night Watch, believe it or not. And I was a guest investigator, and we were, I was investigating with a group, and we were, I can't remember the area, it was kind of like I can't remember what floor it was, but there was this big door, big metal door, and it led to this little closet kind of room space. And we went in there, and we were getting all kinds of activity, and we were not, seeing any wires or anything that could be causing EMF builds and the equipment just going off like it was. So I was like, and people started, the girl that was in the group started getting dizzy. I was like, well, let's go ahead and get out of here, probably EMF builds that are making you feel sick. We'll step away for a while and take our breath, and then we'll come back and figure it out. Well, as we were stepping out of the kind of like closet room area, going into the main area, my meter went up all the way and was slapped out of my hand straight down, and they saw it. They saw, we caught it on film actually, because you can see my shirt and everything got pulled down as it was getting slapped out of my hand because I had it close to my shirt. So it was pretty wild, pretty amazing.
Now you have a show. You have a show for Amazon as well. How can people find you there?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime and Amazon Video on Demand. Kindred Moon Paranormal. If you just do a search for Kindred Moon Paranormal, all the episodes will come up. I think there's over 20 or 30 on there.
20 to 30 episodes on there, Kindred Paranormal. The book is out and available right now through Amazon.com.
Yep.
All right.
Kindle.
Yep, Kindred Moon, Paranormal Survival Guide to the Paranormal, Spiritual Warfare, and Protection. We'll put up a link to that as well so that you can find it and keep up with it there. Michael, thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your stories and encounters and some insights on ways to protect ourselves when dealing with the paranormal.
Thank you much for having me, and I hope that everybody gets a lot of information and empowers themselves from this.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for tuning in, and let's keep Oregon in our thoughts and prayers. They are dealing with horrific fires, wildfires. As a matter of fact, it looks like Mount St. Helens with all the ash coming down. So just start to focus, folks, for Montana, California, and Oregon, and all the places that are ablaze. Just imagine those storms that are going to be pummeling the East Coast and Florida, and just imagine that rain moving its way over to the West Coast and just drenching those areas. Not flooding, not causing more damage, but just sating the ground for moisture and stopping the fire. So if you could please put that in your thoughts just for a few seconds when the show's over. Just concentrate on those states. Look at the map. Focus on those states and just see life-saving, life-giving rain coming to those states to help them so that they can get back. They've lost so much, and we need to have this stopped again. We've come together before and have worked miracles. Let's do it again. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.